2 days ago, Sayadaw explained on the Four Noble Truths so that yogis can understand the Four Noble Truths as much as they can. And Sayadaw explained by using everyday language in order for the yogis to understand. There are 4 truths: dukkha satya, the truth of suffering; samudaya satya, the truth of origin of suffering; nirodha satya, the truth of cessation; and magga satya, the truth of path leading to cessation. The first 2, dukkha satya and samudaya satya, the truth of suffering and the truth of origin of suffering, these 2 are lokiya satya, mundane truths, and one has to work on these 2. The latter 2, nirodha satya, the truth of cessation, and magga satya, the truth of path leading to cessation, these 2 are called lokuttara satya, supramundane truth. One cannot practice on these 2 as one has not attained them. So it is quite sufficient. It is sufficient to know the quality of the last 2, nirodha satya and magga satya. There should be ukkaha, learning what are the 4 truths. Dukkha satya, the truth of suffering, is seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and so on. The physical and mental phenomena arising as seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, bending, stretching, they are all dukkha satya, the truth of suffering. Seeing, taking that seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching are pleasant, and being attached on them, wanting to hear good things, wanting to see good things, wanting to see better things, wanting to hear sweet sound, wanting to hear more sweet sound. Such kind of craving is the origin of suffering. Buddha said that dukkha pariññaya, meaning one should discern dukkha satya, the truth of suffering. Samudaya satya pahatabba, one should remove, one should abandon samudaya satya, the truth of suffering, which is craving. Nirodha satya satchikātabba, meaning one should realize nirodha satya, the truth of cessation. One should realize, one should attain nirodha satya through one's knowledge. And magga satya, the path leading to cessation, should be practiced. One should develop the 8 noble paths in order to attain cessation. And these 8 noble paths consist of Sila group, morality group, Samadhi group, concentration group, and Panya group, wisdom group. In this way, the 4 truths should be discerned, abandoned, realized, and developed. What one should work on is that one should be mindful. One should be observing every object that is arising in oneself, such as seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, knowing, rising, falling, lifting, moving, placing, and so on. So these objects are to be noted at the moment they are arising. If one is not noting, if one is not mindful of these objects, there will be not knowing. If there is not knowing, it will be dukkhe aññāna, meaning one does not discern dukkha saccā, the truth of suffering. When there is not knowing, one does not know correctly and one knows wrongly. Not knowing correctly, knowing wrongly is avijja, ignorance. If one does not know that craving is the truth of origin of suffering, one cannot remove craving. Not being able to remove craving, dukkha saccā, the truth of suffering, will continue to arise. So how one can remove and abandon the craving, which is the truth of origin of suffering? One, there are times where one should deliberately remove the craving when it arises. When craving arises, when seeing good things, hearing sweet sounds, smelling fragrance, eating tasty food and so on, when such kind of craving arises, one should be mindful of it in order to remove it. But it is said that prevention is better than cure. It is better to prevent craving from arising than removing after it had arisen. So it is more meaningful to prevent craving from arising, and Sayadaw will continue to explain how one can prevent and how one can remove craving from both theoretical and practical aspects. Dukkha saccā has another name called apeññeya, and another word for it is apeññāta, meaning that these should be discerned by outstanding knowledge. These should be discerned by extraordinary, outstanding knowledge. When it is said that these dukkha saccā are the ones that are to be discerned by outstanding knowledge, one needs to understand what it means by outstanding knowledge, and one should also understand outstanding from what and how outstanding the knowledge should be in order to discern them. In the text, it says that apicca sutta-mayaya, tinda-mayaya, ekassa bhavanaya paññāya, vicitthāya paññāya, ñāta abhiññāta. Meaning that when it means the knowledge should be outstanding knowledge in order to discern them, Such kind of outstanding knowledge excels Suttamaya Jnana. Suttamaya Jnana is the knowledge gained through learning theory. So its theoretical knowledge is called Suttamaya Jnana. And also, such outstanding knowledge excels Chindamaya Jnana. Chindamaya Jnana is the knowledge gained through reasoning, reflecting, and such kind of outstanding knowledge excels Ekaca Bhavanamaya Panyaya, meaning it also excels knowledge associating with Lokiya Jhana, mundane absorption. By practicing Lokiya Jhana, mundane absorption, one can gain knowledge associating with the jhana absorption one has attained. The outstanding knowledge excels such kind of knowledge gained through mundane absorption. Such kind of outstanding knowledge is the knowledge discerning mind and matter that is developed stage by stage through the practice. It means that however one may be skillful in the scriptures, however one may be an intellect, such kind of knowledge is not recognized as outstanding knowledge. In order to gain outstanding knowledge, one should have theoretical knowledge roughly about what is nama, mentality, what is rupa, materiality, what is dukkha sajja, the truth of suffering, and one should know the method how to discern dukkha sajja, how to remove samudaya sajja. After learning that much of theory, one has to practice accurately according to the guidance and instruction. Practicing accurately, precisely, according to the guidance and instruction, one will come to discern dukkha sajja, one will come to remove samudaya sajja, one can discern these truths which are difficult to be discerned and thus they are profound. So in this way, through the practice, one comes to discern the truth through one's knowledge gained through practice. So such kind of knowledge, discerning the truth, dukkha sajja, samudaya sajja, the knowledge gained through one's experiential practice is called outstanding knowledge, and such kind of knowledge excels the other kind of knowledge mentioned, because such kind of knowledge discerning dukkha sajja and samudaya sajja through one's own practice is of better quality, outstanding quality, as one discerns the true nature that really exists from one's own experience of practice. Dukkha Satya and Samudaya Satya, the truth of origin of the truth of suffering, and the truth of origin of suffering are Lokiya Satya, mundane truth. So these two mundane truths are said to be Sutotasa, meaning they are difficult to be discerned. As these two, Dukkha Satya and Samudaya Satya, are difficult to be discerned, thus they are profound. Because these truths are difficult to be discerned, and thus they are profound, it means that ordinary people cannot discern them. It is impossible for the ordinary people to discern them. A person who is not educated will not understand these truths. Even if one is educated, but if one only has theoretical knowledge, then one only has Suttamaya Jnana, theoretical knowledge, Cintamaya Jnana, knowledge gained through reasoning and reflection. A person with Suttamaya Jnana, Cintamaya Jnana, theoretical knowledge and knowledge of reasoning and reflection cannot know the truth from one's experience. If they know, it will only be knowing like the shadow of it, but it will not be paccaka, it will not be the knowledge gained through one's experience of practice. In order to know these truths from one's own experience of practice, in order to know them by direct knowledge, as if like taking hold of it in one's hand, what should one do? In order to discern them with direct knowledge, as if like holding it in the hand, one should remove the adverse states. One should remove the impurities that have been hindering. One should remove the hindrances. One should remove the opposite states that are polluting the mind. One should remove the hindrances that are weakening one's knowledge. So when these hindrances are removed, even though the truths are difficult to be discerned and thus profound, but by removing the hindrances, these truths will become obvious to the person. When it is said that the two truths become obvious to the person by removing the hindrances, it is not just being obvious ordinarily, but they become obvious extremely. However, Dukkha Satya and Samudaya Satya, however the truth of suffering and the truth of origin of suffering are difficult to be discerned and profound, as one removes ignorance by destroying ignorance, these truths will become very obvious to the person. So one should reflect on one's life. no need to reflect other people's life, but reflect on one's life. And one should see how one spends the day, how one spends each day, with what kind of mind does one spend each day. Whether one spends each day by controlling one's bodily behavior, verbal behavior, mental behavior, or is one wasting one's time without any control of one's body, speech and mind? Or is it half-half, that one controls one body, speech and mind, and the other half not controlling one's body, speech and mind? Most of the people are living one's body, speech and mind uncontrolled. Most of them are worldlings. They are the beings in the sensual realm. Beings in the sensual realm mostly are craving to see good things, craving to hear good sounds, craving to smell good fragrance, and so on. And usually they are seeking, craving for one's own benefit or one's own family benefit. And when they get what they want, they crave onto them, they cling onto them, and they want more and more good things. They want better things. And when they come across unpleasant objects, there can be anger, hatred, aversion. So in this way, there will be adverse states arising in the mind all the time. There will be lack of metta and karuna, lack of loving kindness and compassion. Instead, there will be hatred, aversion, cruelty. So these adverse states of the mind are arising. And most of the time, one's physical behavior, verbal behavior, and mental behavior are polluted, dirty, defiled. And one does not exert effort to practice, one withdraws from practicing, one withdraws from performing wholesome deeds, one feels lazy, sluggish, and most of the time one wastes one's time with tina mita, sloth and torpor. Without any control of one's mind, one is letting one's mind go freely. There is distraction, scattering of the mind, restlessness, uddhacca arises. And whenever one thinks of one's wrongdoing, there can be remorse. And whenever one remembers that one had done bad deeds, or one failing to do wholesome deeds, one will feel remorse, regret. There can be uncertainty and doubt about the truth. In this way, one is wasting the whole day with adverse mental states which pollute one's behavior by body, speech, and mind. So throughout the whole day, there will be these adverse mental states polluting one's behavior by body, speech and mind, and thus there will be unwholesomeness all day long. And these adverse mental states are overwhelming. And also, the Sandana Panyati, the form or shape concept, is hiding. Form or shape, because of the form or shape concept, one take it as being body, hands, feet, and so on. So one only sees the shape or form concept, thinking them as body, hand, or feet. And also, when one moves around, lifting, bending, stretching, and so on, the akara panyati, the mode or manner of moving, the manner concept is hiding, and thus one only sees it as movement, as the akara panyati manner concept prevails. As these panyati concepts are prevailing, the reality, mind and matter do not prevail. So it is said that when panyati emerges, paramattha, reality, submerges. Because of these panyati concepts, such as sandana panyati, form or shape concept, akara panyati, manner concept, because of these concepts, the realities are not prominent. So in order to see, in order to discern the reality, mind and matter, one should abandon the concept. One should abandon concepts such as form concept, manner concept, in order to realize the reality. So long as the concepts are overwhelming, so long as the concepts are hiding, one will not know the truth, one will not discern the truth, and thus these dukkha satya and samudaya satya are said to be difficult to be discerned, and thus they are profound. By removing the adverse mental states, when one had removed the adverse mental states, one can discern the truth, and these truths will become not ordinarily profound, but these truths will become outstandingly profound once one had removed the adverse mental states. A person who fails to practice mindfulness will not know the truth. If one is not mindful at the moment of sitting down from standing position, not being mindful, one will think, I am sitting. And if somebody asks, where is I? Or where is you? They will say, it is the body which is sitting. So in this way, sandana panyati, form or shape concept, prevails. When concept prevails, the nama rupa, mentality and materiality, will not prevail. Mentality, materiality cannot be discerned when sandana panyati, the form or shape concept, prevails. So in other activities such as standing, bending, stretching, in these activities as well, if one is not mindful, one will only know the manner of bending, stretching, and so on. Akara Paññatti, the manner, it is just a concept. It is not the reality. And when the mind just falls on either the form or shape, or either the manner, one will not discern the reality, mind and matter. The mind and matter that involves in sitting down process, they are paccaka, they are the things that should be discerned through direct knowledge. If one does not discern mind and matter by being mindful of them, one cannot discern dukkha satya, one cannot discern the truth of suffering. It will be dukkhe aññāna, there will be not knowing on the truth of suffering. So in this way, one does not discern dukkha satya, truth of suffering, involved in the sitting down process. At the moment of sitting down, there is mentality and materiality, which are dukkha satya, the truth of suffering. As they are difficult to be discerned, and even though they are difficult to be discerned and profound, but if one notes the object in the way of Satipatthana practice by being mindful. For example, when one is mindful of sitting down, when one notes sitting, aiming one's noting mind towards the sitting, the noting mind falls on the object sitting. When the noting mind is aimed towards the object, when the noting mind is direct or face to face with the object, at that moment there will not be any greed, wanting to see good things, wanting to hear good sounds. In this way, kama chanda, sensual desire, cannot arise at the moment the noting mind is aimed towards the object. And also, there will not be wish to kill or torment others. There will not be wish to destroy others. In this way, when the noting mind is aimed towards the object, when the noting mind is face to face or direct with the object, these wrongful thoughts cannot arise, and these adverse states are removed. At the moment one is noting the object, aiming the noting mind towards the object, one's mind is also free from lobha, dosa and moha, greed, anger and delusion. In this way, one is removing the defilement at the moment one is mindful. When the noting mind falls on the in order to keep the noting mind on the object, in order to aim the note, in order that the noting mind falls on sitting down, one should aim one's noting mind towards the object, and one should assert effort. Asserting effort in the practice, one's mind will not be cold. There will not be laziness. In this way, laziness cannot arise by asserting effort. There will not be tina mita when one asserts effort. In order to practice diligently to gain the benefits, laziness is the opposite force. Laziness is the adverse state. By aiming the noting mind towards the object, aiming vitakka is the opposite force to dispel laziness. Having aiming, noting with aiming, micca vitakka, wrongful thoughts cannot arise, and especially dhinamita, sloth and torpor, cannot arise. Vitakka, aiming, can keep the mind active, blossom and open. If the mind has dhinamita, sloth and torpor, the mind is constricted and contracted. Having vitakka keeps the mind active, open, alert and blossom. And having viriya, effort, it is also the force overwhelming dhinamita, sloth and torpor. In this way, by noting the object with aim and effort, sloth and torpor cannot arise. The micca vitakka, wrongful thoughts cannot arise, and also other defilements cannot arise. When one notes the object with aim and effort, when one notes with aim and effort when sitting down, the noting mind sticks on sitting down. When mindfulness is developed, the defilements cannot enter the mind. Mindfulness guards and protects the mind away from defilements. When mindfulness is present, these defilements has no chance to arise. And also, having mindfulness, the mind will not scatter, the mind will not have distraction. In that way, there will not be uddaca, restlessness, there will not be kokoca, remorse. In this way, by being mindful at the moment of sitting down, the adverse mental states cannot arise. When the noting mind falls on sitting, at times one may know the series of intention to sit, which is nama, mentality, and at times one's noting mind may fall on heaviness, stiffness, tension. Heaviness, stiffness and tension are the nature of materiality, and thus knowing stiffness, tension, movement, one comes to know rupa, materiality. In this way, by being mindful of sitting down, one comes to know either the mentality or materiality. In order to develop knowledge, one should note it with aim and effort. And noting with aim and effort, one comes to discern mentality and materiality, which are dukkha satya, truth of suffering. Discerning dukkha satya, it will be dukkha jnana. One develops knowledge, understanding dukkha satya. So by noting, sitting, at the moment of sitting down, one removes adverse mental states, and removing adverse mental states, one comes to know the truth, one comes to know nama and rupa, mentality and materiality, and thus one discerns dukkha satya, truth of suffering. So dukkha satya becomes obvious to the person by removing the adverse mental state, and Saraji will continue to explain tomorrow. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.